We're starting a new series this week, and it's called Essence. And really, what the series is we're looking and taking a deeper look into character. We're going to be exploring what true character is, and so we're starting this tonight, and you're going to see over the next few weeks how this is going to break down. But I wanted to start with giving this name and where it came from. I don't know about you, but how many of you guys, your families used to play like board games or card games? How many of you? Okay. My family didn't. We weren't really card players or board player games, except when we'd be on vacation. We had thinking in my head like an Australian right now, a caravan, which means a trailer. We had a trailer. We had one of those silver bullet Airstream trailers. And we would go on vacation every year, usually somewhere in New England, mostly in Maine. And we would we'd park the trailer and we would sit by a lake for like two and a half weeks. And usually no TV. This was in the 1800s, before the internet. And so like we're always looking for things to do. And so I'd get bored after about like an hour of being there. Both of my siblings were much older than me. They're 8 and 6 years older than me. So by the time I was like 10 years old, they weren't even coming on vacation with us anymore. So it was just me and my parents. And we had this game that we used to play. And it was left in the trailer, so it never made its way back into the house. And we would just play this game only on vacation. And it's a game called Mealborns. And that's it right there. It was, now I'm not that old, but this game was from like the 60s. And I found this game once, and we started playing it. And then it became like this tradition to play it every time we were on vacation. I even brought it into the house and taught my friends how to play this French card game. It's a French game. I'm not sure what borns means. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation. I know that mille is 1,000. And it's a card game that's about a car. It's about a car trip. And you're trying to like rack up all these points to get to the destination. Your final destination, I think, was like 3,000 kilometers. Now, this game to me was like exotic because it was in French. And you had kilometers, and you had all these French words on the game. And you can see the cards right there. And apparently in French, stop is stop. And as you can see over there. And there you go. See, thank you, Devin. Anyways, then people would try to slow you down, and they would do these things. But I love this game because, I would just we'd try to be exotic as 10-year-olds, and we'd be like, yes, we are playing the card game. Yes, and maybe we can eat the croissants with espresso. That's Italian, but anyways, but it was just like non-American and like non-white American. That was like extra vanilla, right? So, but there was this card in the game that you had to have every once in a while called Essence, which is gasoline, or around the world, petrol. But of course, you don't pronounce it essence, you'd pronounce it essence. And if you're talking about like proper, you'd be like, there's a little L in front of it that you barely pronounce if you're speaking French, l'essence, which means the essence, the gasoline, the petrol. And I thought that was really cool. Well, that's like so exotic. They're like, I need some essence for my car. It sounds just awesome. Like we're like, I need gas, right? Which can be like Taco Bell issues too, but essence seems so awesome. So you're like, what does this have anything to do with this series on character? Because I think essence is that inner thing that would fuel a car in this card game. I think our essence, what's inside of us, fuels us. So let me ask you a question. What fuels you? What fuels you? Some of you are like, Starbucks, caffeine, matcha, whatever it is. What fuels you? Let me ask you a question. What fuels our culture and the people around us? What's fueling them? In other words, what is the thing that fuels them, that drives them? You know, that's a big question, but that's really what we're going to be talking about. I was listening to a podcast by a guy named Mark Sayers. Mark is a pastor of a church in Australia that was like right down the road from where Carrie and I used to pastor in Australia. And listening to a podcast, I shared it with my team. And you know, I was already planning on doing this series, but listening to this podcast, I think there was a couple things that Mark Sayers was saying about our culture that I think is probably an accurate observation for what's fueling lots of people. He talked about the fact that there's this unnamed religion that our culture follows that we don't even know we follow because it's an unnamed religion. And a religion, you know, I'm not talking about Christianity, but I'm talking about the systems of religion are systems of belief that shape our worlds and our culture. And he talks about this unnamed religion that's so ingrained into our culture, especially Western culture, we can't even fathom that it doesn't exist because it's become such a normative part of who we are. And what Mark Sayers calls this, it's the religion of hyperreality. A religion of hyperreality. And it's kind of like, you ever seen those things on Instagram or Snapchat or whatever, those filters that you put on? And then people put them on like TikTok and Reels, like, this is me without my filter. This is me with the filter. Am I the only one? I'm in a room full of Gen Zers. Someone's had to have seen this, right? Like filters of life. Actually, even when we post pictures, you have a plethora of filters in ways that we've all become Photoshop experts and we don't even own Adobe, right? Like, because that's our world, this hyper reality filter. We filter everything to present the best of what our world has, wants, and desires. And this hyper reality, it's not the real, it's a version of the real. It's a hyper real, but it's not real. But it is our real. Perception is reality. And this hyper-perception of what our lives should look like impact us in different ways. You know, that hyper-reality and everybody experiencing or desiring hyper-reality, as Mark Sayers says, it leads us to the pursuit of amazing. Because just okay, reality, isn't good enough anymore. So it's the fact that I'm living for amazing experiences. I want amazing friendships. I want deep, powerful, intimate, amazing friendships. I also want to go on these amazing adventures in life, where every weekend becomes this excursion and this adventure with these amazing friends, to these amazing places. We're having amazing experiences. And then, let's be honest, we start having, we want amazing romantic expressions. And we want to eat amazing food in amazing places with amazing views. And we take these pictures and these Snapchats and we put them all over our life. And then we actually say, you know, our weekends, like I said, are all these amazing opportunities, events, and experiences. But we're not trying to escape our jobs because those should be amazing, fulfilling careers as well. Everything is just amazing. Even when it's not. And I think COVID burst the bubble for a moment. But then we've been quick to get back to these amazing. You know, Sayers makes two observations, too, about hyperreality. This hyperreality is performative in nature. Hyperreality isn't just this private thing. It's not just us pursuing these amazing experiences, this amazing life, these amazing friendships in isolation. It's performative in nature. It's not private. We're actually making sure that everyone is seeing it. Everyone, at least in our world, is experiencing it. We're posting these things because we have to let others see these amazing experiences with these amazing people and these amazing places that we're having all the time. My amazing world, living my best life. So it's performative in nature. I have to let others into my amazing world. Not only is it performative in nature, it's competitive in nature. Because in the world of hyper-reality, not only do I have to have this amazing life, I have to post it everywhere, but really what I'm doing is I'm putting it out there because I may not be competing personally with Brad in his amazing world, that he's posting these amazing videos and songs and his amazing dog, Storm, his amazing wife, Cindy, and like, wow. I may not be competing personally with Brad, but I'm competing with all the Brads. Because how does my world, how does my life, how does my reality measure up and stack up with the rest of it? And I start comparing and then competing with others. I've got to keep up. Or my life isn't as amazing as everybody else's. And maybe I'm not competing personally, but I've got an internal scorecard with how I measure up with the rest of society, the rest of culture, the rest of the world's life. And if that's not enough, that hyper reality, that hyper performance, that hyper competition of where I stack up with the rest of the life is feeding something inside of me that's this. And I love how Sayers puts this. And when he shared this, I was like, ooh, that hits. And it's this, that not only in this unnamed religion of hyperreality, there is a belief system, and it's an internal, it's usually a quiet but unbelievably powerful belief that sounds like this. I'll be happy when, ... I'll be happy when, or I'll be happier when, or I'll finally be happy. I'll be content when, fill in the blank. I'll be happy when I have a group of friends that I can do these amazing adventures with. I'll be happy when I have a bestie who totally gets me and understands me. Not just someone I do stuff with, but someone I can bare my soul to. And I'll be happy when that person is as amazing as everyone else's bestie that's out there, and probably even more amazing than everybody else's. And I'll be happy when I get out of my parents' house. For some of you that hit, right? I'll be happy when I get out of college and get into the real world. I'll be happy when I get that career that is totally fulfilling, that totally that builds my identity and sets things up where I can change the world, this amazing career. I'll be happy when that job gives me enough money to supply the lifestyle of adventure and amazing that I want to have, or at least gets me out of debt from the pursuit of the other amazing things that I've been doing. I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I get out of Connecticut and I move to that place. Maybe it's a city, maybe it's the country, but I'll get there. I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I find that romantic relationship. I'll be happy when I get that pet. Whatever it is, but there's this internal drive to go, I'll finally be happy when. The problem is that goal keeps moving, because when we get out of the house, we're still not happy. When we get out of college, we're still not happy. When we get that job that we thought we wanted, we're still unhappy. And then I got a promotion that gave me the raise, and I'm still not fully happy yet. And then I could get my own apartment, but it's not big enough. And then I got a house, and that's not fully, then there's too much responsibility with that house. And I was happier when I was in college and had no responsibility. I'll be happy when I retire. I'll be happy when I go on vacation because I'm exhausted from this job. I'll be happy when. Do you see that goalpost keeps moving? And I'll be happy when, and then I look at everybody else's I'll be happy when, and theirs seems more amazing than mine, and then I'm not happy again. Now, I know that's nobody in this room, but how many of you see this played out on our cultural backdrop all the time? Totally. And these powerful beliefs in this system of hyperreality, can I tell you, it is so normal. It is so pervasive. We don't even see it anymore, and we can't imagine doing something different and living something different. So we're doing this series called Essence, What Fuels You? And can I say, you know what fuels you? Your character. Your character. Your character is the essence of what you are that leads to how you live and how you behave and how you interact with the world. Essence is that internal part. Even in Christianity, we have this thing called the fruit of the Spirit. The fruit of the Spirit is internal, and I see character is the muscles in which the fruit of the Spirit gets flexed out in our world. And in the journey of following Jesus, of being a disciple of Christ, of saying, this isn't just saying, hey, I go to church. Because can I tell you, just let you know, that going to church doesn't make you a follower of Jesus any more than standing in your garage makes you a car. Hopefully, this can be a community and a place that we can follow Jesus together in community. But as a journey of being a follower of Christ, it is a journey of becoming like Christ. And the danger is right now in our world, the hyper-religion of hyper-reality, the focus of I'll be happy when, can actually just take Jesus and add it to our hyper-reality. It can take Jesus and just put it on the veneer of this amazing experience and amazing life. But the problem is that if you actually listen and read and apply the teachings and the life model that Jesus calls us to, it isn't hyper-reality, it is reality. And it bursts the bubble of the matrix lifestyle of I'll be happy when of hyperreality. Because that hyperreality is just a projection of a false God that's shaped like me. Becoming like Jesus starts with being transformed by Jesus. In Christianity, in following, being not as a system, but as being a follower of the person of Jesus Christ, who was God in the flesh, who was the ultimate model of what humanity can be, living in right relationship with God. It's not a system of just going, hey, I'm going to try to fake it till I make it looking like Jesus. It's about allowing Jesus to form himself in me as I pursue him. So we're going to look at this series of what is character. What is the character of Christ? But I want to start tonight by looking at a passage in Philippians chapter 1. Let me give you the context for this passage. We studied this together at Ignite. That's our college age group that meets on Thursday nights at 7 o'clock. How'd you like that plug right over there? It was great. But they started a series on Philippians and asked me to come in and start the first 2 weeks. And can I tell you, I changed my message based on what I was reading in Philippians and what we were talking about. The context of Philippians is a letter that the Apostle Paul, or St. Paul as some people call him, a follower of Jesus, was writing to this church that was in the city of Philippi. A church that he planted, that he had started, a church that had gone through suffering, a church that had gone through hard times, a church that had gone through persecution because they were followers of Jesus. It cost them. And Paul's writing to encourage them, but Paul isn't in Philippi. He's in Rome, but he's not living it up, drinking, nice Italian wine, eating pasta. He's actually in a Roman prison. He's there on trumped up charges, false charges, but really he's there because he's a follower of Jesus and fearlessly was living for and proclaiming Jesus. But he's in a Roman jail. He's in a Roman prison. This was not the Hilton. This is a really bad place. He is chained up. He is locked down. He's in real trouble. This isn't like COVID lockdown. He's not like streaming Netflix all day long. He's really in rough shape. And in a Roman prison, you don't get fed unless someone brings you food. You don't get clothing or blankets unless someone from the outside can bring them to you. This is dark. This is damp. Many people died of disease and infection. It is not a good place. Many people in Roman prisons died of starvation, and that's where Paul is. Paul's not living out hyperreality. Paul's not in jail taking selfies with the guards, posting like, "What's up?" This is bad. And this is what Paul writes to this church in Philippi. And that's the context. But before I read what he writes, I want you to think about this. What would you be writing if this was you? If you were in prison, if you were in a really bad, not even American jail is bad, but this is like really bad. If you were there suffering, if you were there in sleepless nights, in terrible conditions, what would you be thinking? What would you be feeling? And if you were going to write a letter to some friends, what would you write about? I don't know about you, but I'd be writing like, "Get help now." I would be writing like, "Get me out of here." I'd be writing, "This is horrible. Woe is me. Bad week." But look at what Paul writes. I love this. Philippians chapter 1, we're going to start in verse 3. I'm going to read reading through this. He says, "Every time I think of you," this church in Philippi, he says, "I give thanks to my God. Whenever I pray, I make my request for all of you with joy. For you have been my partners in spreading the good news about Christ from the time you first heard until now. And I am certain that God, who began the good work within you, will continue his work until it is finally finished on the day when Christ Jesus returns." Verse 7. "So it is right that I should feel as I do about all of you. For you have a special place at my heart. You share with me in the special favor of God, both in my imprisonment and in defending and confirming the truth of the good news. God knows how much I love you and long for you with the tender compassion of Jesus. I pray that your love will overflow more and more, and that you will keep on growing in knowledge and understanding. For I want you to understand what really matters. Why? So that you may live pure and blameless lives until the day of Christ's return. May you always be filled with the fruit of your salvation, the righteous character produced in your life by Jesus Christ. For this will bring much glory and praise to God." It's pretty incredible for anyone to write at any time, especially as someone sitting in a Roman jail. Do you see the adjectives that Paul is writing there, at least about his emotions? He writes joy. He writes love several times. Later on in the chapter, and we don't have there, he talks about being expectant with hope and being content with what's going on. Look at what his focus is that's going on. So his feelings are full of joy and love. And his focus is, he's saying, I'm thinking about you and I'm thankful for you in verse 3. In verse 7, 8, 9, he says he's filled with joy and love for them. In verse 4, he says he has joy-filled prayers. And his desires in verse 9 is that they would grow in their relationship and understanding of Jesus. He wants them to understand. Did you see it? Did you see it's there? I want you to understand in verse 10 what really matters in life. And I love this in verse 11. He says, he kind of summarizes all of this verses. He goes, may you always, now, how many of you were here last week, the last 2 weeks? We talked about church words, blessings. And I gave you a cheat code. Whenever you see this phrase, may you, or may God, he's blessing them. And he's saying this, may you always be filled with the fruit of your salvation. What is that? The righteous character produced in your life by Jesus. For this will bring much glory to God. That's Paul's summary statement right then. For them and for us. I want you to be filled with what? The right character, the fruit of your salvation. How is that produced in your life? It's not through gritting your teeth, through sheer willpower, determination. It's produced in your life by Jesus. It's produced in your life through Jesus. Jesus doesn't just say, hey, shape up. He says, I want to save you from yourself. And in relationship with me, I will form myself. Paul, earlier on, he goes, I'm convinced that God who began this work, just to even say yes to him, will continue that work in you. But can I tell you, Jesus is there wanting to do the work, able to do the work, powerful enough to do that work in you. He's just looking for people that will respond to him and let him do that work in us, to partner with him in that work. This isn't you sitting on the bed at night just going, all right, Jesus, zap me now. Character, right now, go. More. I feel a little better. Just a little bit more. That's not what this is. Jesus is going, we're on a journey. Let's do this together. We're on a journey. I will do it with you, in you, by my Spirit, but I'm looking for people who will surrender their will to me and letting me fuse that character in them. Now, this is still amazing. And Thursday night, we were looking at this, and there's a couple times as these students were wrestling with these passages, they forgot that Paul's writing this in jail because it's already powerful enough. But to do this, and you go, how could Paul feel this way? How could he have this, this focus? How can he have this pursuit while he's sitting there rotting in jail? It's so otherworldly to our culture. How can he be thinking not about himself and his own comfort, but about his friends who are struggling? How can he live with that joy and that peace and that love? Something significant and powerful shaped his thinking, shaped his mindset. And I think it's the same thing that needs to shape ours. How can Paul do this? It's very simple, but unbelievably difficult. It's that Paul realized it's not about me. It's not about me. 18 times, Paul says in Philippians chapter 1, he uses the word Christ. Now, for those of you who know, Christ isn't Jesus' last name. It's the title. It's the Greek framing of the word Messiah. He's talking about the Messiah. He's talking about Jesus, the Christ, the King. 18 times, Paul is talking about Jesus. Paul can't shut up about Jesus because Jesus was his everything. Why could Paul have this kind of reaction to the suffering that he was going through and living? Because he loved Jesus more than his own comfort. And out of that love, he loved others more than himself. For Paul, his happiness wasn't contained with, I'll be happy when I. Paul's focus was, I can be happiest when he. And when Jesus is glorified. You know, we didn't read the verses here, but Paul actually says to these guys, hey guys, don't pity me in jail. This has been amazing. I've actually gotten the opportunity to talk about Jesus to the Roman prison guards, and now the whole Roman palace has heard about the amazing, life-giving good news of Jesus. Isn't that awesome, guys? I'd be like, what? I'd probably be like, yeah, that's great, Paul. Paul be like, why don't you guys should be here with me. This is great. I'd be like, no. Why? Because let's be honest. I love myself and my own comfort and my own hyper reality and my own pursuit of amazing experiences with amazing people and amazing life. And not that all of that's bad, but if that's our life focus, why is it with all of this hyper reality that we have the most depressed and anxious generation ever? While Paul's sitting in a Roman prison going, this, although it's tough, I've got joy and peace and love for not only my friends in Philippi, but those who would say that I'm their enemy and want to put me to death. That's radical. Can I suggest that's hyper reality? That's the kingdom of God reality that he's calling us to. And if we're going to develop anywhere near that level of character, it starts with this. Go ahead, Dan, you can put this up. That we are realizing that Christ-like character, that having that kind of love, joy, and peace in our life is on a journey, like I said, of moving towards being like Jesus. But it starts by moving away from self-focus and me. The journey of following Jesus is walking with Jesus, towards Jesus in his glory that will get lived out in our world in such a dynamic fashion that it actually changes who I am. And it's no longer about me. Our world creates everything around it to focus on our me selfish focus. It used to be bad when I was your age, but now it's even gotten harder because, even with the world's advertisements playing to that self-focus and those needs in my life, with advertisements and with promises of this will make you happy when it's even worse because now you guys just talking, microphones pick up the words you say. They pick up the context culturally of what you say will make me happy when. They're talking about your interests, your clicking, your search histories, no matter where it is, it's all put in a mainframe to target you specifically for your makes me happy when. Amazon has a whole list of things that they're more than happy to sell you, which is very different than the things that they show me. Doubt anyone else in this room gets barbecue stuff popping up on their phone all the time. Why? Because that's like dad stuff. I'll be happy when the perfect brisket. I don't know what yours is, but can I tell you, the life that internal drive is causing you to sacrifice, pay a very high cost to pursue. The life that you're trying to have is like water in your fist. It just slips through. But when we are on a journey of saying, Jesus, this hyper-reality thing isn't working for me. And if my friends were honest, it's not working for them either. because maybe they posted this amazing weekend adventure with vista views, eating the grandest food with the best friends and the best looking crew when they're in their rooms alone at night, their world crashes in again until the next pursuit, until they're sitting there scrolling, seeing what everyone else did this weekend too, and they go, my life sucks. The Jesus way. Jesus said, come to me. The essence of who we're becoming doesn't start with adding the Jesus package to our already full lives. It starts with a surrendering of our life to Jesus and saying, do what you want to do. I give up. And it then starts the next day with Jesus. It's your life. I'm handing it to you. Do what you want to do. Lead me into what you have for me. And then the next day, and then we blow it for a couple days, but we get back and like, sorry, Jesus, I'm with you. Form in me the life that you want for me. Shape me. Produce the fruit of my salvation that you died for. Jesus said to his disciples, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself. Take up his cross, which was an instrument of death, and follow me. You know what Jesus was saying? I didn't come and die so you could just add me to your Instagram feed. I gave all of me for all of you. And in that, let me transform you. And I promise, if you stay close, if I'm your number one, if your focus and purpose is me, then even in struggling and in suffering and in hard times, I'll never leave you. And I'll continue to shape my character in you. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. We didn't mean to, but we've lied to you. When I say we, I'm not speaking on behalf of BlackRock leaders or like the elders or staff. I'm talking about on behalf of pastors in the Western world, leaders in the Church of America. We didn't mean to, but somehow we said, you'll be happy when? Just go to church a little bit more. You'll be happy when? Just get in a good small group. You'll be happy when? Go to church. The more you go, the happier you'll be. You'll be happy when? You want amazing friends? We got them here. Really good looking too. But what we didn't say is true joy and peace and love starts with dying so that Christ may live in you. Why is it that a faith that began with the brutal crucifixion of our Lord and Savior would lead on a path that's all about me? It's all about him. Paul writes in verse 21, and I think he nails it. Verse 21, he says this, for to me, living means living for Christ. And dying's even better. Now, this isn't Paul having some like dark death wish. He's saying this, I have been suffering, and it would be better for me to be with Jesus if I died. But I've been no longer living for myself anyways. I've been living for Jesus. And if I continue to live, it will be for Jesus. If it was all about me, I'd say, Jesus, get me out of here. Not just jail, but out of earth. Let me go be with you. In other words, Paul's character was formed with a perspective of it's all about you, Jesus. It didn't happen overnight. He was on a journey too, and so are we. That's where we're beginning this series. This whole series is about moving to become more like Christ. And this series is also going to be helping to define what Christ's character was so we can partner with him in letting him form those things in you and me. Is that cool? All right. Couple takeaways. I'd just love to have you close your eyes and bow your head. And we're not going to move into a time of worship with like reflective music. I love that. Just start this. Why don't you be honest? Maybe just start dialoguing with Jesus, and I've been doing that this week too. Just going, Lord, what's that belief that I have? I'll just be happy when. What's your blank? What's that thing? Maybe there's 5 or 6 of them. If you were to be honest, and the problem is we don't even tell ourselves the truth, but those beliefs are in there. Oh, if I can just get this, if I can just do that, if I can just be there, if I can just have this thing or this group or this, whatever it is, this person in my life, I'll just be happy when. Can I tell you something? Just changing your circumstances, just changing the outside alone doesn't do it. And maybe we start by letting Jesus dismantle those me-shaped idols that feed that belief it's all about me. Just begin right where you are, just for a minute or so. Just begin to dialogue with Jesus. And maybe you can't even name those things. And ask, just, Jesus, would you reveal to me those things that I believe? It's just, those are the things that make me happy. If I just get that, then I'll finally be happy. Just ask him, Lord, begin revealing those things to me. And ask him for what's best.